contract in exchange for a proportional increase in wages. Without further ado, the House welcomes the Prime Minister to open the case on the government side.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, today there are contracts that are way too complicated. There are contracts that burden companies, and there are contracts that depress the wages of workers. And we can see in certain countries, especially European countries, that now there are other special contracts that are coming out. These special contracts actually provide these workers with less job security. These contracts also give these workers less insurance as well. And we believe that this is not a good thing. I mean, this is not a bad thing, sorry. This is not a bad thing because this is a sign that an economy is responding to the changing world around it. We recognize that the world is globalizing, and countries around the world, they need to start allowing these workers to compete. And if we keep these contracts as strict as they are, then in developed countries, these workers are not able to compete. We believe, let me first talk about the health issue and also the safety issue as well. The opposition side might think that we are going to let workers do things that may cause them to all die, but that's not true. In the workers' contract, it's going to include things, that are more about the insurance and also the pay and also other welfare things. But construction workers, they actually have health, they have safety measures protecting them. And this doesn't fall under the workers' contract. We know that it's bad if construction workers don't wear helmets at all. This is common sense. And so this is not even included in the contract. And so they cannot argue against that point. Would you like to say something?
Yeah. Does this also include like other health and safety standards like the info slide? Like what did the info slide even mean if we're foregoing that?
Okay, well, we are not foregoing the info slides at all. In fact, we're basically saying that these info slides, they are included in the government legislation. It's not part of the debate today. Because the government recognizes that there are things that are just common sense, where if you don't wear a helmet, something falls on your head, you're gonna die. That's not the debate today. So let me first say why we want to propose this motion today. Because number one, we believe that we want to give power to these employees. We want them to have this ability to choose to have higher wages. And we believe that it's common sense to give them that ability to choose higher wages. What we think doesn't make sense is that the government setting up rules where it's extremely strict, where they have to have 2 hours of lunchtime, maybe, or maybe they have to have certain holidays. We understand that there are workers out there that want to work harder. And what we're trying to do is we're giving them that ability to work harder. And in return, what they're going to get is higher wages. And we believe that is justifiable, and that is what we want. And these workers, they are people who are desperate for work. These people, maybe they want more money for medicine. Maybe they want to support their children. And education is expensive, and so no, thank you. And so they're going to want higher wages. And what we're doing is we're giving them the ability to save themselves. Otherwise, if there is no system like this in place, then these workers would have to work. Maybe they would have to find another part-time job, which we think is completely unnecessary. They would just simply have to work much longer hours, and they would have to commute to another workplace. Allows me to move on to the second point, which is how this would allow companies to save money. No, thank you. And how this will allow companies to respond to the changes in the economy better. So under the status quo, companies in developed countries, some of them, they are actually facing problems. These are called structural problems because it's entrenched in the government policies. And these problems, they're causing some of these companies to lose money every month and every year. And so this is just going to bring down the economy of the entire country. Unfortunately, no thank you. These companies, they can be saved by a simple correction of the law. And by this correction, we're just saying that we're going to provide these workers with, and these companies with the flexibility. And the flexibility comes, no thank you, in the form of it's easier to lay them off, and also if you want them to work extra hours, you can. So if we have this, then these companies will regain the ability to compete with other companies overseas, and this is going to make sure that these companies don't go to bankruptcy in the future. And we recognize that without large companies and essential companies, no thank you, in an economy, then all the workers will suffer. As you can see in Finland, their biggest company was Nokia, and we all know about the Scandinavian system. They have a very strong welfare, no thank you, system. And these companies that they're not doing very well, they cannot sack workers. And so these companies have to go under eventually. Same thing with Japan. You see that there are many workers that can never be sacked simply because of the contracts that we have today. Let me move on to the third point, no thank you, which is that, this would actually decrease the unemployment rate, because this allows, as I mentioned before, this allows the economy to be more dynamic. So companies would be more willing to hire people as well as fire people. And so when the economy is bad, they fire people. When their economy is good, they hire more people. And so if you lose your job today, you get a job tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, but next year. And that's going to be fine. You can work in other jobs. You can work as in Starbucks. And we believe that this would give the ability for these companies to basically react to these tough times. And workers themselves, they will also benefit from this, because there will be less people who are unemployed as a result of these strict contract rules. And as a result of that, they're going to be able to provide for themselves. They'll be able to pay for the medicine if they are sick, and also for their children's education. And we on the government side, we just cannot see a justification for making these, for forcing all contracts to be just so strict. To force all these provisions that are completely unnecessary for any company, and also unnecessary for these workers who can easily get higher wages as a result of a better contract. We do not want to deny these workers higher wages, and that's why I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, and the House welcomes the first speaker on the opposition side. Open the case for the opposition.
A very well welcome from the opposing side. First, I would like to give you a clear outline about my debate. I will start with a rebuttal, and afterwards I will come to points which are the following. Firstly, coercion into those contracts, into those missing contracts. Secondly, poor people are affected most in this government's proposal. And thirdly, why health is more important than money. Afterwards, my second speaker, Trent, is going to speak about labor unions and how they would be affected. So let us have a look at the rebuttal. I do see that this is a very long motion, but still, we do have to read the whole motion and understand it properly. This House would allow employees not to receive any basic provision. What is basic provision? What is the definition of basic provision? Basic provision is, for example, that you cannot get fired easily from one day to another. In the US, for example, you can get fired from one day to another. In Europe, you can't. This is one explicit example of what is a basic provision. Another one is that as well about safety standards. It's as well about wearing boots that give you the chance when something falls on your foot, that your foot is not going to be completely destroyed. So what we do see here is that the proposition did not properly understand the definition of the motion. Basic provision includes something like firing, and as well health safety standards. And afterwards, another problem I didn't understand is in their labor contracts in exchange for a proportional increase in wages. You've been talking constantly about how the economy is going to be boosted. They still have to pay money for that. The company, like let's take for example Apple, if they have a lot of people doing this, then they still have to give them money for that. It's not like they have a trade-off. It's not like they're paying less money. They're actually paying more money. It's only going to decrease our economy.
Sure.
No, thank you. So this point, which is absolutely ridiculous and which shows how misunderstood the motion is by the proposition, it shows that there is a proportional increase in wages. Therefore, there's not going to be a trade-off for the companies themselves. They rather have to pay more, and therefore the economy is not going to be boosted. Further on that, dear, like I come from Europe, and we know that all future trends about Europe are that we are going to be that our wages are going to increase, that we are going to get way richer, our GDP is going to increase. There is no such case that Europe is going to fail in the future years. The countries that are going to fail are those countries where they have problems. China, or if you have a look in those underdeveloped countries. Of course, this has as well other reasons, but if you have a look at people who are more motivated because they have certain security, because they can work under certain conditions, they work harder, and this is highly important for an economy. They have their productivity rate increases dramatically. So, and then Nokia, the example. Okay, sorry, like Nokia, there's no knowledge about Nokia at all. Nokia lost because they were not innovative enough. And if you have a look at Apple, those ones who are winning right now, they have more than everybody else safety standards, and they really try to help everybody that they don't get fired easily. This is exactly the example where you see that in those companies where they actually help those people, they work better, they work harder, their productivity rate is higher. So, and now let me come to my own substantial speech. Firstly, it is about coercion. What is an employer going to do? So let's say an employer feels like, oh, I really like it when I can just fire one from one day to another. Of course, he's going to force the person to get into this missing contract. So they're going to ask them in the job interview, oh, what do you think? Would you like to take that or not? And then afterwards, they're either going to choose this candidate or not. I can give you an explicit example here of Japan, where you see how many times people get actually coerced into working contracts. You see, here in Japan, many women get asked, are you ready to completely work for the company? This is synonymous for, do you ever want to have a child? And if they get a child, then it's like, oh, what, you said yes at that point. So these employers are going to misuse their power, are going to put people into the conditions and of working in poor conditions. And when we are at the word poor, who's going to be affected by that? Of course, the poor people. They are the only ones who would take this possibility. Because if you're rich enough to have healthy standards and safety standards. But let me take an example for a pure person who would do that. Let's take John. John has a daughter, and the daughter really wants to go to the private school. So John thinks, okay, I get more money if I take that. John is very irrational. Adam Smith explained how people are rational. They are not rational in our economy. We are very irrational. John will take that because he wants to send his daughter into a private university or private school. But what is going to happen? John is going to have less safety standards. He might, for example, if he works in a nuclear power plant, he will sit there, get less safety standards. He's going to die sooner. Has the daughter been helped in any way there? No, she needs the father certainly. Or the father is going to get fired from one day to another. Is way more insecure about his job. Feels way less. Feels depressed. Feels stressed. This is all very negative for the father and for the daughter. These are definitely reasons, and I can see there's no POI being made today. It's very hard to discuss that, isn't it? So. And it's as well a question if we should come at one point to the question that it is a luxury to wear safety boots if you work on a construction site. If this is a luxury, we came to a point which is ridiculous. In our developed world, it should not be a luxury to have safety standards which are sufficiently for people. And we speak here about basic provision. I want to get back to the motion just to make that clear. So, and now my last point is about health is more important than money. And this is of course a general claim, but I'm going to show you why it's as well more important for the whole economy. If you have people under worse health standards, they are going to cost the government in the end more. Because those people, if you worked at a nuclear power plant and you got cancer, of course, this is going to cost the government a lot. This is going to cost Japan a lot if they have a lot of people who are completely infected by rays of a nuclear power plant. This is actually going to cost them more than not paying those, not paying for those basic provisions. So what we see here is it's a minus. No one is being helped by here. The economy is not being helped because the economy still has to pay more money for that. Then we have the government which is not being helped because later on they have to pay more money for their health insurance and for those people that probably have to retire earlier because they got hit by something and didn't wear the right boots. And This is the biggest problem about that. You are going to hurt especially the poor people, those ones who don't deserve it. Those ones like John. John will take this decision to do that. In the end, he will die, and his daughter will sit there alone in his private school. Do you think this is the trade-off you want to have? People are not rational. So, for all these reasons, if you do believe that we should not have people coerced into contracts that do not give them enough safety standards, and if you do believe that we should not harm poor people especially, and if you believe that health is more important than money, dear ladies and gentlemen, please oppose.
Thank you for your speech, and the House welcomes the next speaker on the government side, extend the case on government.
Thank you, Chairperson. Now, if we take this motion, what will happen is really clear. You know, if we take this motion, you can get extra money for your hard working. And then, what is going to happen? Please think about long term. Well, the opposition side today really fear about if only in one term many people want to take this system, and then maybe company will have a really big burden or something like that. No way. That problem will be ended soon. Why? Simply because if we take this motion and then many workers try to use this system, maybe in a short term maybe. Extra money have to be paid, and then company may have a burden. However, if workers work hard in order to show they are worth using this system, then the efficiency of the work will surely increase. That's the reason why. Even if the company have a really big burden in short term, the efficiency of work increase. That problem can be solved simply because the benefit of the company will increase thanks to the higher efficiency of the workers. This is our main argument today. So, as a second speaker of the government side, I have mainly 4 things to do. Firstly, I will first thing about my previous speaker. Well, my previous speaker really fear about. Firstly, about firing. Well, after taking this motion, simply because companies have to pay a lot of money for him or her, that will be a big burden. Then fire, or something like that. Firstly, this is a short-term problem, as I clearly told you just before. And also, do you really think precisely because he wants extra money, the company will surely cut him out? No way. Those people who will take this system, claim that he will do more, he will do better, he will work harder, or something like that. Do you think companies will cut off those people who has lots of incentive to work in the future? No way. And also, what is more, those people generally, workers have extra ability compared to ordinary people. Do you think companies will cut off such well-skilled worker and then employ another new original people? No way. They will not do that. This is less valuable for companies. They will not do that. So no firing. Even if there's a burden on companies, that will be ended soon. So that will not be a really big problem. Next, let me move on to my second point. Here I have a really big principle. Basically, what is the obligation of companies for employees? We strongly believe that is to maximize the choices of people, of workers. Why? Simply because workers require companies many things. For example, they want more money, in this case, or they want, they want to feel achievement, or they want to feel fulfillment in their job, or something like that. So, in order to, respond, all of them, in order to respond well, better, all of them, we should, prepare more and more choices. And this is one of them. Please, and also, this is actually going on. Please look at childcare leave. There are some people who want to do well in both childcare as well as business. For those people, no, thank you. In order to let them achieve their goal, companies are just right now preparing this choice, childcare leave. So companies are doing. So companies should, and they are doing in order to maximize workers' choice. So this is the same thing. There are some people who want more money. Okay, then let's make another option for them. Third point. Well, let me compare city school and after taking this motion, I will mainly talk about burnouts. So under city school, one man want more money, maybe spend more money for just like he want to pay back loan, or he want to go dentist, and he has to pay every month, no thank you, 100,000 yen or something like that. When it comes to this situation, maybe he will work hard, or he will work longer, maybe 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the midnight. So he will be definitely burned out. Why? Simply because there is, there will be no stoppers. As for families, maybe, families may think he is doing well for us. So families will justify his working hard, though they have to stop it. And also other colleagues will think about we have to prioritize his freedom to work hard or something like that. So there will be no stoppers. However, after taking this motion, in order to get in order to get the same amount of money, the time he has to work will be shortened. Why? Please imagine a situation where he can get 1,000 yen in just per an hour, and then if that amount of money doubled, then the time he has to work will be will be half than before. So this will shorten. He has to be in the company, so less time to work, and then he can stop burnout by himself. Fourthly, this is my last argument, but what will happen if if workers have another better option? Well, firstly, they can be supported economically. This is the same thing happening in universities. Actually, I have, I don't know how to say in English, but I have to go there and then work. So I will be absent today's club activity, today's debate activity, or something like that. If they had, extra money in university, then there is no need for them to, to go work. So he can focus on debate. So he can be supported mentally. And then, as I clearly told you, if he is supported mentally, then he can come up with new ideas, and then the efficiency of his work will surely increase. So this is exactly how the efficiency of companies will surely go up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. And next, the House welcomes the second speaker from the opposition side to extend the case on opposition.
right, just a quick roadmap. First, I'll be doing some explicit points of rebuttal. Then I'll be doing a little bit of an extension of what Yannick said. Then I'll go on to my own point of positive matter, which will focus on labor unions. All right, on to the explicit rebuttal. So what we hear out of the last speaker is a lot about how this program increases efficiency, and it also increases, like, workers work harder and they work less and things like this. This is just fundamentally untrue for a few reasons. He said first that they won't fire the workers because they work harder, right? So this makes them more valuable to the company. 3 reasons this is asinine. First, they're probably worried about job security, right? So this is like not something that a worker is going to be working well, right? Now they're worried about keeping their job all the time, and they're not able to put all of their mental capacity towards actually performing the job at hand, right? When you're always worried about job security, safety standards, things like that that aren't being provided for you, you're constantly worrying about them, making your work less effective. Second point, not everybody takes this choice. I think what the opposition, or what the government side is doing here, right, is they are completely misrepresenting the motion. This is a choice that people take. They operate under the assumption that everybody takes this choice. This is completely untrue. In the world that is profitable for companies to do this, right, either people are being coerced into it or nobody takes the choice because it's the wrong choice to take, right? It's very clearly the wrong choice to take, right? And in the world where some people take it and some others don't, you know, the only people who can get fired is those who take it, so they're the first to go anyway. So even if they work harder, they're the only people who can be fired because everybody else is protected by contracts. So it doesn't matter how hard you work, because you took this decision, you're the only person who can be fired. Third point of rebuttal. This assumes that this is skilled labor, right? This assumes that this is labor that takes somebody who has gone to college or something like that. If this is menial, physical labor, it doesn't matter who is doing it, then the trade-off completely does not exist, because no matter how good of a worker you are or how hard you work, there's a very simple cap of who can also provide this service. All right, a few more points of rebuttal about this thing that it somehow lessens overtime and people have to work less and the workers are more efficient. A counterexample here, Sweden is the most productive country in the world. Like, the people are the most productive. Studies have shown, right? Sweden also has some of the strictest labor laws in the world. So I think it's empirically proven that the most effective workers are not necessarily those that are, I guess, just open to all of the capitalist influence of the market. Completely open to the market. All right. Some extension of what Yannick said now. So they pretty much cold concede this coercion point, which I think is really convincing here. Because it means that if it is profitable for companies to implement this practice, then they'll simply coerce people into taking it. They'll just ask them in interviews, which completely bastardizes hiring practices, right? So if it's profitable for companies, that means it's bad for the workers. It means it's bad for somebody, right? And what the metric for this debate should be, who should decide this debate, is who creates the best life for the most amount of workers. Because the motion is talking specifically about giving the workers a choice, right? So that should be the metric for this debate round. And I think it's pretty clear to see that if workers are being coerced into making this decision, then that obviously is not the best decision for them, right? Second point here, that when completely conceded, this mostly affects poor people who, might I remind you, make up the majority of the labor force. Unskilled workers across the world, majority of the labor force, most people. That means that we win the metric debate right here, because poor people are the only people who can ever be convinced to take this choice, right? Who else would ever take this choice? Who else does not have the disposable wages to pay for the most basic needs other than poor people? So I think Yannick gives this great example about John and his daughter. And that's really convincing, because think about it, like, he's not going to make a rational decision there because he's talking about a loved one. Like, this is baby girl. He loves her. He's no longer rational. People aren't rational. We shouldn't make this assumption, especially people who are being coerced by the market. They say something at the end of their speech like, employers should always increase the choice of their employees. This can't happen if they are coerced by the market, and market coercion clearly exists in this case. Third point of extension here. Healthcare is much more important than money. Once again, this one completely conceded, so it must be true. In the case that we pass this legislation, or I don't know, whatever, pass the motion, right? This is obviously negatively going to affect the government because the government is going to have to pay more money for these people when they are negatively affected. When they get things like, they have health issues, right? Now they have to go through healthcare, which I think pretty much in all countries now is provided by the government, more or less, unless you're in the US, but that's like a sticky situation. Most countries, it's going to cost the government a lot more money. It's not a good idea for this reason. All right, now on to my point of positive matter, which I think is very persuasive, even if we completely ignore the info slide. So unions are pretty much the most important thing when it comes to everything for workers' rights, right? Unions are the people who negotiate for your wages, they negotiate for your working conditions, and forfeiting that right, which obviously is a basic right in a contract. Like, you can't say like, oh, like that's not obvious. No, okay, No, we're talking about unions here. We're talking about forfeiting your right to a union, your right to protest. These things are extremely important. And guess what? They are only effective if the majority of workers are in them. So by offering this choice, you're not only hurting the workers who take this choice, you're hurting every other worker within that industry because the unions lose power. The unions are the ones who help to decide your wages. The unions are the ones who protect you against the company, protect you from them cutting every single corner they can just to make an extra dollar, right? Taking all the power away from the unions completely destroys anything like the right to protest. Take, for instance, if a company is implementing some working practice in a manufacturing labor plant, right? They're being exposed to carbon fiber dust that's negatively affecting their lungs, it's giving them lung cancer, yet they can't even protest because they have no union protection. So even in the world where people are offered this choice, right? Even in the world of the opposition, where not everybody takes this choice, everybody is negatively affected. So I think it's very clear at the end of this round why the opposition team is going to win. The market is obviously not positively affected. I mean, it says proportional in the, in the motion. Like, the Prime Minister's speech is completely off base, and I think Yannick does a great job of pointing that out. It's very clear why it's negatively affecting the most amount of people, and Yannick's speech pretty much went completely cold conceded, so I think you have to accept all of it as, debate fact, which is kind of like real fact. All right, thank you all.
Thank you for your funny speech, and the House welcomes the next speaker from the opposition to conclude the case in opposition.
Now it is my pleasure to finally have a look at the whole debate. I would like to start with one point we've been talking a lot about today, which is the point of efficiency. They keep us telling that if you do have less security, if you do have less basic possibilities, you're going to be more efficient. They even said that if you get 1,000 yen for an hour before, and now you get 1,000 yen for half an hour, so you would earn double, you would be double as efficient. No human being is able to do that. And the worst part is that this is definitely not true. Look at Sweden. Look at the most productive country in the world. We mentioned exactly that, where we can see that it's empirically proven that there's a strong connection between people having good rights, having labor unions, and giving them the chance to have basic provisions, and the productivity rate. There is a strong correlation, and we have to take this certainly into account. Look at China. They are still one of the less productive countries in the world because people don't have a lot of provisions there. Look at Japan. Look at you. You are very good here because you have a lot of possibilities. You have high security standards, which is helping you a lot in your economy. And yeah, let me come to the second clash. You said that childcare leave is a positive thing. Yes, I do totally agree. But with your implementation, you're exactly going to take this away from people because women will be forced again to use this kind of contract in which they are not allowed to use childcare leave anymore, Because of course, as a company only wants to have money, money, money. Of course, you prefer to have a woman who's not going to go away for childcare leave. And this, again in Japan, you do really need people. If you need anything, you do need more young people. You don't make enough people, and implementing this law in Japan is very helpful. It's exactly the same in Europe. It's exactly the same in Germany. If we do this there, we have a big problem. So another clash we have won. Let's have a look at a third clash. They wouldn't fire the ones because they are now working harder. Okay, I already proved that they worked harder, but let us have a closer look at that. If there's a problem at the company, who do you fire first? You fire those ones first. They don't cost you anything to fire. You fire those ones first who have agreed that they get fired from 1 second to another. Of course you do that. No one is going to fire the one who's where it's very costly, where it's impossible to fire it. So of course you fire those ones who are possible. So those ones get fired first. We have clearly pointed it out, my second speaker and me. And now let us have a look at more facts that have not been attacked from your side at all. We explain to you how especially poor people are being affected, how it becomes a luxury to wear a helmet, to wear the right shoes, or to not being fired from one day to another. And we gave you the example of that health is more important than money, with a very clear explanation why this is hurtful for the whole economy, why this is hurtful for the government spending, as it will increase as people will need more health care later on in their life, as they had worse situations during their work. And in addition to that, of course, as they get fired easier, you have to pay as well for those people who are jobless. So. And then we have the point of labor unions that we mentioned, where we see that this implementation would hurt everybody, including the ones who do not take it. So they would negatively affected by not being able to protest anymore, as not everybody is part of this. So you would not only affect your people negatively, you would even affect the other people negatively. So what do we see today here in this debate? We see that we, as the opposition, were able to prove how we give the best life for the government. They don't have to spend that much money on the healthcare afterwards. On the economy, where they, as the economy is more efficient this way, look at Sweden. And thirdly, at the employees, who can live with a helmet on their head. If you care about John, please oppose.
Thank you for your speech, and lastly, the House welcomes the Prime Minister again to conclude the case on the government side.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what we don't see is an apple from Sweden. Yes, you might say that it's the most productive country in the entire world, but why don't we see an apple from Sweden? It's obviously because of their labor contract laws. And let me first start off with some refutations. They say that healthcare is more important than money. And we agree with that point. We think that people's health is extremely important. But these are already protected by basic laws that already protect workers that are not related to the contracts in the first place. So there would not be a problem of people suffering from things that are obviously already banned from the entire world, that's already banned from the entire workplace. And then they also talked about the unions. Well, unions are already declining without people doing anything. Union power has been declining for years. Since 1970s, people are not joining unions anymore. And so why are you bringing it up now? And it's not that, and if these contracts stop workers from joining a union, maybe they don't even want to join the unions in the first place. So why does that even matter? So the opposition side has always, for most of the time, they demonize companies. They think that all the companies want to do is just fire everybody they can and to maximize all their profits. But we on the government side, we don't agree with that. We believe that companies during good times when they are not suffering from recession, when the entire economy is not suffering, then they will always have the motivation to save their workers. It's also supported by your point. You said that these workers, these workers, they feel motivated to work when they have job security. So companies do want to provide that for them, but sometimes it cannot be provided, and this is what these contracts do. It gives them a choice, and sometimes you choose less security and in order to get more money for now. And so I believe we have three main points, clash points. The first is on power. Where does the power go? Who has power, companies or these workers? Then my second point is on unemployment, whether this would actually increase or decrease unemployment. And finally, it's on the strength of companies. So for the first point, we think that these workers are clearly given power, and that's the power to choose. And this power to choose to have more salary, you can actually do much more things with it. You can send your children to school, John, and otherwise maybe he couldn't send his daughter to school. That would be horrible. And also these workers would also work less hours as a result of an increase in salary. So this is basically a choice. Why are we denying them that choice? And yes, not all workers will choose this, and so there's no problem with that. So as for unemployment, companies are unwilling to hire under the status quo because it's too difficult to fire people. If we have passed this law, there would be an increase in firing and hiring, and so people will change jobs more constantly, but still they will have a job, and so and even if you lose your job, you'll be fine in a few months because the economy is dynamic. Then let me move on to the third point, which is the strength of companies. We believe that companies, of those countries, they will become stronger because as a result of this, some people will choose this, and companies can lay off workers when they don't need them anymore. And this would lead to better jobs. It would lead to more jobs, and as a result, if these companies are even better, then people in that company, people under the normal contracts who don't opt in for this choice, they will have better job security. And that's why I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. No speeches are over, so guys, please come to the front and shake hands and leave this room now.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.